Hi, welcome. Enjoy the content, subscribe, and turn on notifications.
Patrick had always thought of himself as a lucky guy. At 38, he had a solid career as a civil engineer in Seattle, a comfortable home in the quiet Ballard neighborhood, and a 7-year-old daughter who brightened every day. Sarah was the perfect mix of him and Olivia, his brown eyes, her smile, and a sweet personality that melted everyone. Their 12-year marriage looked, to anyone on the outside, like the picture of stability. But Patrick carried a weight no one knew about, his wife's suffocating jealousy. Olivia was 36 and worked as an advertising executive at a downtown Seattle agency. She was creative, smart, successful. But she had a dark side Patrick had learned to tolerate over the years, convinced it came with loving someone deeply. She constantly checked his phone, not subtly, not quietly. Olivia would just grab his phone out of his hands without asking, scroll through his messages, read his emails, dig through his photos. She called him 5 or 6 times a day when he was at the office or on a job site, always saying she just wanted to know how he was doing, but Patrick knew it was pure control. The jealous scenes were frequent and humiliating. At the company's year-end party, Olivia would explode if Patrick talked to any female coworker for more than 3 minutes. He'd lost friendships that had lasted years because Olivia made it crystal clear, with icy stares and sharp comments, that those women weren't welcome near her husband. Once, at a backyard barbecue at friend's house, Patrick gave a quick hug to a college friend he hadn't seen in years. Olivia made such a scene they had to leave before dessert, and Patrick spent days listening to accusations that the hug had been too long and too intimate. He put up with all of it because he loved Olivia. Or at least, he loved the idea of what they could be if she could just get past that insecurity. Patrick convinced himself her jealousy came from some past trauma, maybe from earlier relationships, and that with patience and love, he could help her overcome it. He never suspected the truth was much different. Much uglier. The discovery started on an ordinary October Tuesday, until it wasn't. Patrick was supervising a commercial building project in Capitol Hill when he got a call from Sarah's school. She had a stomachache and a low fever, and the office asked if someone could pick her up. Olivia was in a client meeting and didn't answer her phone, so Patrick left work early, something he rarely did. He picked Sarah up around 2 in the afternoon. She looked pale and clearly wasn't feeling well, but it wasn't serious. On the way home, Patrick tried to distract her with light conversation. "Dad, did you leave work just because of me?" Sarah asked, her voice small and tired. "Of course, princess. You're more important than any meeting," Patrick replied, smiling at her in the rearview mirror. Sarah went quiet for a few seconds, staring out the window, then blurted out with the brutal honesty only children have, "Uncle Josh wasn't there today when we got home. He always leaves fast when you get home." Patrick felt like the car had hit an invisible wall. His hands gripped the steering wheel so tight his knuckles turned white. He looked back at her again, meeting her eyes, and forced his voice to sound casual, light, as if this were the most normal thing in the world. "Uncle Josh? Who's that, Sarah?" "He's Mom's friend," she said, not understanding how heavy her words were. "He comes over to play with Mom when you're at work. He's nice. Sometimes he brings chocolate. But he always leaves fast. Mom says it's because he has other stuff to do." Patrick felt his blood turn to ice. His stomach twisted, a deep nausea rising in his throat. He kept driving on autopilot, asking casual questions, trying not to alarm Sarah, trying not to let her see his world collapsing right in front of her. "How often does Uncle Josh come, roughly?" "Oh, every week, I think. Sometimes twice. Mom says he's a work friend." "Every week. Inside their home. In front of their 7-year-old daughter." Patrick wanted to scream. He wanted to punch the dashboard. He wanted to pull over and just fall apart. But Sarah was in the back seat, innocent, sick, clueless. So he swallowed it all, the anger, the pain, the betrayal, the humiliation, and kept driving. When they got home, Patrick checked Sarah's temperature, gave her a kid's fever reducer, and called Olivia's mom, who lived 15 minutes away. He made up some excuse about needing to rush back to the job site because of a supplier issue, and asked if she could come over and stay with Sarah. The woman showed up in 20 minutes, worried about her granddaughter, and didn't suspect a thing. Patrick drove off without a destination, just circling for a few minutes, his mind spinning in furious loops. Everything made sense now. Olivia's obsessive jealousy. All those baseless accusations. The toxic control over his life. It wasn't insecurity. It wasn't trauma. It was projection. She accused him of cheating because that's exactly what she was doing. She went through his phone because she assumed he was doing the same thing she was. She created scenes of jealousy because she was hiding something filthy. Patrick pulled over on a side street, 2 blocks from his own house, and walked. It was about 3:30 in the afternoon. Olivia usually didn't get home until after 6, but apparently, she had other plans on Tuesday afternoons. He approached the house quietly, his heart pounding like a war drum in his chest. The front door was locked, as always, but he could see through the large living room window. And there they were. His wife of 12 years. The mother of his daughter. Sitting on their couch, wrapped around a man. Not a friendly hug. Her legs were crossed over his thighs, her head resting on his shoulder, both of them laughing at something on his phone. The intimacy of the scene was undeniable. Repulsive. Patrick stood there for a few seconds, just watching, burning that image into his memory as proof that everything was over. Then he pulled out his phone. Hands shaking with rage, he took photos. 3, 4, 5. Then he switched to video and recorded 15 seconds of them there, completely at ease, completely unaware they were about to be destroyed. Patrick put his phone away, took a deep breath, and walked through the front door. The sound of the key turning in the lock was like a fire alarm. Olivia jumped off the couch so fast she nearly knocked over the coffee table. The man stood up, stunned, eyes wide. Patrick shut the door behind him slowly, deliberately, and looked at the two of them. Olivia was pale, mouth open, searching for words that didn't exist. The man was younger than Patrick, maybe 30, with short hair and a rumpled button-down shirt. Patrick. What are you doing here? Olivia stammered, and the question was so absurd Patrick almost laughed. What am I doing here? In my own house? Patrick repeated, his voice dangerously low. I think the real question is, what is he doing here? The man took a step forward, hands raised in surrender. Man, look, it's not what it looks like. I'm Olivia's cousin. I'm in town from Portland visiting Anne. Cousin? Patrick cut in, and now he laughed, a dry, humorless sound. Interesting. My 7-year-old told me today that Uncle Josh comes here every week to play with Mom. That's some tight-knit family, huh? Olivia closed her eyes, and Patrick saw the exact moment she realized it was over, that no lie was good enough to get her out of this. Patrick, please, let me explain, she started, but he raised his hand, silencing her. Explain what, Olivia? That you're bringing another man into our home? In front of our daughter? While I'm working to pay for this house, this life, everything? His voice rose now, the anger finally breaking through. While you've spent years accusing me of looking at other women? Humiliating me in public because I greeted a friend? Checking my phone every day like I'm a criminal? It wasn't like that, Shut up. Patrick shouted, and both Olivia and Josh took a step back. You made me feel guilty for years. For things I never did. You destroyed my friendships. Made me look like an idiot in front of everyone with your psychotic jealousy. And now I know why. You accused me because that's exactly what you were doing. Josh tried to slip quietly toward the door, but Patrick blocked his path. "Oh no, buddy. You're not going anywhere yet. I want you to hear this too. You think you're dating a single woman? She's married. She has a daughter. And apparently, she brings you here, to the house I pay for, on afternoons when I'm at work. So, Josh, are you just stupid, or do you just have no morals?" Josh didn't answer, staring at the floor. Patrick turned back to Olivia. "How long?" "Patrick." "How long, Olivia?" "6 months," she whispered, tears finally starting to fall. "But it meant nothing, I swear, it was a mistake, 6 months, Patrick repeated, his voice breaking. 6 months you cheated on me. 6 months you brought this guy here. 6 months you exposed our daughter to this." Olivia collapsed onto the couch, sobbing. "It was a mistake, Patrick, please, we can fix this, I love you, "You don't love me," Patrick said, and now there was a final coldness in his voice. "If you loved me, you wouldn't have done this. And do you know what's worse? I would have forgiven you if you'd come to me honestly and said you weren't happy. We could have ended this like adults. But you chose to betray me, lie to me, and still accuse me of the very things you were doing." He looked at Josh. "Get out of my house. Now." Josh didn't wait 2 seconds. Grabbed his jacket off the couch and ran out the door without looking back. Patrick pulled out his phone and started typing. "What are you doing?" Olivia asked, panic rising in her voice. "Sending the photos and videos I took of you two to my lawyer. And to your parents. And to some of our friends. Because I want everyone to know who you really are." "No. Patrick, please, don't do this, my parents will. They'll hear the truth," Patrick finished, hitting send. "Just like everyone else will." Olivia tried to reach for him, but he stepped away like she was poison. "I want a divorce. I'm sleeping at my brother's tonight. You'll get the papers tomorrow." "And Olivia?" "I'm fighting for full custody of Sarah. No judge is going to think it's okay for you to bring lovers into the house while your daughter is present. You can't take my daughter away from me." "Watch me," Patrick said, and walked out. The weeks that followed were a blur of lawyers, paperwork, and pain. Patrick filed for divorce immediately, presenting all the evidence he had. He hired one of Seattle's top family law attorneys, and the man was relentless. Beyond the photos and videos, the lawyer suggested Sarah be interviewed by a child psychologist specializing in custody cases, a process allowed under Washington law. The psychologist spoke with Sarah in a safe, playful setting, and the girl, not fully understanding what was happening, told everything naturally, that Uncle Josh came often, that Mom told her not to tell Dad, that once she saw Mom and Uncle Josh kissing. The psychologist's report was devastating for Olivia. It concluded that the mother had exposed the child to an inappropriate and potentially confusing situation for her emotional development. During the investigation, Patrick uncovered something even worse. Olivia and Josh had met on a dating app. 2 years ago. Olivia had created a fake profile, using only her first name and photos where her face wasn't clearly visible. She'd been actively seeking extramarital affairs while accusing Patrick of imaginary infidelity. The lawyer obtained screenshots of the profile through a private investigator, and that was the final nail. Under Washington's community property laws, assets were supposed to be split evenly. But the evidence of adultery and the inappropriate exposure of their daughter weighed heavily on the judge's decision. Patrick kept the house, most of their joint savings, and, most importantly, primary custody of Sarah. Olivia was granted supervised visitation for 6 months, then alternating weekends, as long as she proved she was in psychological counseling. Olivia's parents were heartbroken. Her mother called Patrick crying, apologizing for what their daughter had done, saying she didn't even recognize her own child anymore. Her father cut off contact with Olivia for months, too ashamed to look at her. Their friends took sides, and most sided with Patrick once the full truth came out. Olivia lost not just her marriage, but her social credibility, most of her time with her daughter, and the identity she'd built as the devoted wife. Josh vanished from her life the moment the scandal broke. He blocked her everywhere, changed his number. He never wanted anything serious, just easy fun with a married woman who offered zero commitment. When things got complicated, he disappeared. A year later, Patrick was sitting on the back porch of the house that was now his alone, watching Sarah play with the dog they'd adopted 3 months earlier, a golden retriever named Max. The girl was happy, adjusted, doing well in the child therapy Patrick had made sure she got to process everything. He'd been in therapy too, working through the betrayal, the rage, the feeling of having been made a fool for so long. Patrick started going out with friends again without fear, without guilt, without having to justify every conversation, every laugh, every normal human interaction. He even started dating again. He met Emma, a 35-year-old architect working with him on a new hospital project. Emma was the opposite of Olivia, confident, no games, no paranoia. She trusted him, and he trusted her, and for the first time in over a decade, Patrick understood what a healthy relationship was supposed to feel like. Olivia, on the other hand, lived alone in a small apartment in Renton, saw Sarah only on alternating weekends, and carried the reputation of a hypocrite and traitor wherever she went. She'd tried reaching out to Josh a few times, but he never responded. She'd begged Patrick for forgiveness more than once, sending long, dramatic messages, but he never answered. There was nothing left to say. She'd destroyed everything herself. One Sunday afternoon, while Patrick and Sarah made pancakes in the kitchen, the girl looked up at her dad and asked, "Dad, are you happy now?" Patrick smiled, brushed his hand through her hair, and answered honestly, "I am, princess. I'm very happy." And it was true. The pain still existed, buried deep somewhere, but Patrick had regained something far more valuable than the marriage he'd lost. He'd regained himself. His dignity. His peace. His ability to trust that not everyone was like Olivia. The poetic justice was complete. The woman who'd spent 12 years destroying her husband with false jealousy, baseless accusations, and obsessive control had destroyed her own life the moment the truth came out. And Patrick, the man she'd unjustly accused for so long, was finally free, happy, and rebuilt. Sarah would grow up knowing her father fought for her, that not every promise is broken, and that truth, no matter how painful, always matters more than a comfortable lie. And Patrick knew that was the greatest victory of all. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any updates. See you next time.